I don't want to say never trust anybody. Like, if we never trust anybody, we'll never get anything done. Welcome to Rising Anxieties. This is where we talk about what's worrying the animal abuse industry and what's worrying me, though that's a very long topic. As my old mother used to say, she would get so mad if she knew I was calling her my old mother. Nothing good is got by worry. It never stopped me. And when I was a child, I was known as the worry wart because it's just who I am. Anyway, probably some of this is also worrying you, but I hope not too much because nothing good is got by worry. All right, don't forget we're a podcast. We're on YouTube. Please subscribe, hit like wherever you listen. And yeah, let's get into it. I have a couple of themes today. The first theme has to do with this situation in the UK. I've heard of this before. It happened in the 90s, actually, I think, or at least mostly in the 90s, maybe early in the aughts. And I've heard of it before, but apparently there's an inquiry going on about it now. And so there's some stories coming up in the UK papers. It's called the Spycops scandal. At least that's what the Guardian is calling it. Undercover police and policing, and talking about, and this is not just about the animal rights movement, but in the 90s there was this unit of the police in the UK that was tasked with infiltrating mostly left-wing activist groups of all sorts of different persuasions, and they behaved badly in many instances, including, and I've only really read about the animal rights stuff, but I'm sure it covered other issues as well. And there was also bad behavior. The name of this article is, which is in the Guardian, "Undercover Police Officer Fabricated Gun Plot by Animal Rights Activists," inquiry told. And so this is about this guy, James Thompson, who apparently lied to superiors and deceived two women into relationships. That was a big part of this, that almost all of the police officers who did this work were men. And they started relationships with women in these movements, some of which, at least one of which, ended up in a pregnancy, which I think ended up coming to term, but a lot of which ended up in romantic relationships, which obviously were not totally on the up and up. And so this guy, James Thompson, claimed he had uncovered a plot to obtain a gun to perpetrate a revenge attack by an animal rights activist against someone who was a political opponent. And the activist who was accused of this conspiracy said it was a total fabrication. It could have resulted in him being jailed for years. Fortunately, it didn't. And all right, so here's the dates between 1968 and 2010. I'm sorry, I didn't have that before. So all right, this happened in 2001. This guy Thompson drove in his car with this activist to France, claiming that they were getting a gun from a campaigner to take revenge. And the police department apparently thought it was totally credible. They thought that by doing this, by going with him, he had foiled the plot by making it look like the car had been stolen with the gun in it, so the guy never got the gun. And then when they recovered the gun, it was in the car, but the activist didn't get a hold of it to do whatever nefarious deed he was supposedly going to do with it. And then later on, some people began to question whether it was real. And an undercover officer told them Thompson had been given a gun as a gift and had stored it in a French deposit box, which is where they had gone to supposedly get this gun in Marseille. And yeah, so apparently he just made it up. Fortunately, it didn't come to fruition, so the activist did not end up going to prison for this. But nice, right? Nice. All right, the other story. Two stories have come out of this inquiry. This one that was just the intro. This one isn't that bad. It's actually, I kind of like it. All right, this is from the Daily Mail. The Met officer who infiltrated the animal rights mob for 5 years. The Daily Mail is not generally very friendly towards us. Then fell for a violent activist she has now married. This is by Ian Gallagher. And it starts out by saying, none of the watchful band of animal rights fanatics suspected the truth about the ever helpful woman they knew as Christine. Recalled variously as smiley and chatty and someone for whom no task was too much trouble. Yeah, always watch out for those people who are too nice. Christine never missed a meeting or ignored a call to action, whether it involved confronting fox hunters or liberating animals. All agreed she was a recruit of rare dedication and no little zeal. However, at the time she was working for the Metropolitan Police and she was undercover. So yeah, I don't want to say never trust anybody. Like if we never trust anybody, we'll never get anything done. And as it turned out, Christine, not so bad. So this inquiry is currently going on in the UK, and so more may come out about this. But it's mostly about how these male colleagues of Christine's, under the guise of a false persona, tricked their way into the beds of unsuspecting female political campaigners to shore up their cover stories. Some fathered children, then disappeared. Nice guys, right? Um, but Christine, it didn't turn out like that. She got into a relationship. She did. We don't know what her motive was for getting into the relationship because she is not talking. And he was the leader of a London-based animal liberation front cell. He was once jailed for headbutting a fox hunter and breaking his nose. That apparently is the reason he's called violent in the headline of this, because that seems to be the only thing that they're alleging was violent. And so, I mean, certainly it's not appropriate to break people's noses, but it does. And his defense was that he was the one who was attacked, and it was a part of a fight, and he was just defending himself. But he was convicted. I'm not saying he wasn't. But that was it. Headbutting and breaking his nose. All right. So apparently the relationship between the undercover officer and this activist was true love, and it still endures today. And they now are both 64. They left the UK, which is probably a good idea. Got married in Sweden, and that's where they are today. They're not talking to anybody. She's not volunteering to come in and tell her story. She did give a statement in 2018 in which she offered her apologies to those activists who I was closest to and who befriended me, opening their lives and homes to me. And she said she had made some of the best friends anyone could ever want, people who without hesitation put their liberty and sometimes their life on the line for me, and probably for the animals. And so that's kind of a nice story, right? It's my idea of a nice story. It's not the Daily Mail's idea of a nice story. All right, that was our first theme, which was, mixed. Our next theme is an ongoing theme that I cover all the time. I talk about it all the time because it makes me nuts, as so many things do. And this is about how in love farmers are with themselves. This probably, I mean, I'm not saying this is just animal farmers. It's probably farmers in general. But what is plant farmers? I don't really care. If they think they're better than everybody else, what the hell? A lot of people think they're better than everybody else. But this is from Horde's Dairyman, so you can imagine what kind of farmers these are. And they talk, it's so embedded in their lives that this is what they are. It's not just what they do, it's what they are. And they're going to have their kids be the same thing, and they're going to expose their kids to nothing but this. And they're just so great. Do they have any idea what they're doing? Like, it's so infuriating. They're creating such unbelievable harm, but they're so in love with themselves. All right, I'm just going to read a little bit of this. A farm kid's hobbies include more farming. The lifestyle of farming is felt beyond the farmer. It's also often ingrained in their children and grandchildren. It sure is. I mean, these kids, you could almost forgive the entire, like both the parents and the children, like they were brought up, like to think that this is what they were. When farm kids aren't out and about on the farm, riding along in machinery, helping feed calves, sorting cows, and beyond, talk about being enculturated. They can regularly be found doing something else farm-related. The youngest farm babies may be playing with a toy barn or a cow pacifier. A cow pacifier, what the hell is that? The older farm kids are often busy carpet farming by setting up elaborate machinery and livestock operations that take up the entirety of the living room floor. Don't they ever learn anything else about the world? Or they could be playing an assortment of farm-themed board games like blah, blah, blah. Not to mention the different farming video games, blah, blah, blah. When they get to their teenage years, they may spend their free time showing livestock. We've all heard about that, participating in Future Farmers of America agricultural events or doing ag-related projects like 4-H. These kids are enculturated from the day they're born to think this is okay and to think that this is what they are and to think that this is all their life is going to be and to think that that's great. No matter this is by Molly Edie Schmidt. And she concludes by saying, no matter the generation, farming doesn't stop when you step off the farm. It's not just a job. It's who we are and what we enjoy doing, no matter the weather, hour of the day, or where we are. They're so in love with themselves. Just get it, move into the current century, okay? Another, as I said, I have a theme. So another article that I think is along the same theme is from Pork Business. This Thanksgiving, be grateful for the strength of our mothers. And this is by Karen Bonert. Legendary Coach K. I don't know who he was, even though I'm assuming he was a he, even though apparently he's legendary. Sorry, I don't know anything about sports. But anyway, Coach K once advised, be as tough as your mothers. This message resonates, she goes on to say, resonates deeply with those of us who grew up as farm kids, where our mothers proved to be the unsung heroes of our upbringing. Like other people love their mothers too, and other mothers do a good job and sacrifice for their kids too. It's not just on farms. She apparently had a mother who was from a wealthy family and gave it all up to become a farm wife. God. These are women who fed calves in the sweltering heat of summer, irrigated pastures with children on their hips. How do you irrigate pasture with children? I don't know, I don't know. And resolved marital differences amidst sorting cows. Yeah, I bet there were some marital differences. They managed household finances creatively, making ends meet even when the milk check was sparse. And they ensured that a family of 8 was nourished from garden and freezer bounty. My mother, in particular, embodies this strength. Her mother was the best. She would race inside to a home-cooked meal prepared from scratch. Women are capable of living different types of jobs, which don't always involve home-cooked meals. Feeding your children appropriately, yes. They don't have to be home-cooked all the time. Among her most enduring gifts were the values she imparted. Values characterized by a strong work ethic. They're always talking about that because, apparently the only people who work are farmers. And I'm sure it is ridiculously hard work in a lot of ways and depressing. And it involves a lot of denial, I would imagine. All right. By a strong work ethic, kindness, gratitude, and perspective, unlike other moms. My mom never permitted self-pity to take root, a trait she exemplified in her own life. She instilled in us a perspective that transformed adversity into opportunity. Oh, God. Yeah, and transformed cows into food that you don't need to eat. Oikonomia on the farm. Succession planning is about more than wealth. Also from Pork Business, oikonomia is apparently a word. It doesn't have anything to do with it being a pork site. I think it's a Greek word. I don't know. It is pretty. I hadn't noticed that until this moment that the word is oikonomia. It's pretty funny. Oikonomia on the farm. Succession planning is about more than wealth. And this is by Dennis DiPietra and Lance Mulberry. Ancient Greek philosophers viewed resources as abundant, not scarce. They probably were then. So economic action was judged not by the accumulation of wealth, but by whether it enabled and served a praiseworthy end. I have to say that a lot of people in farming are pretty interested in the accumulation of wealth. I'm just saying. It starts off by saying succession planning. So we're talking about, and this is a big deal in farm, and for all rich people, and a lot of farmers are rich people, not all of them. Keeping it in the family, keeping the money in the family. Succession planning is often treated as a legal or financial exercise, a quote unquote simple matter of wills, taxes, and transfer dates. Yet for family owned farms and agribusinesses, interesting that they put agribusinesses in there because a lot of these families aren't just old McDonald living on the farm. A lot of them, are families with quite a bit of accumulated wealth. Not all of them by any means. All right. Yet for family-owned farms and agribusinesses, it's something deeper, the deliberate handoff of a way of life. It's never money. It's a way of life. Um, I have always thought, I don't know how it would work, but you know how people are saying that it's really bad that we basically have gotten rid of the estate tax? Well, some people say that. Some people think it's great. I think that we should get rid of inheritance. Like, I'm not sure how it would work, but I don't like, I think that would fix everything. You just can't inherit wealth. Yeah, they have to give it away. And if they don't give it away, then it'll be up to the government to give it away. So, or me. You could make it up to me. Anyway, I seriously digress. All right, this article goes on. So, from an oikonomia perspective, now I'm going to laugh every time I say that word. The senior generation's goal is to prepare successors capable of managing abundance with restraint, gratitude, and wisdom. Yeah, that's really what American economy, including farming, is about: restraint, gratitude, and wisdom. This calls attention to the education of character. The next generation must learn more than production and finance. They must learn judgment, the ability to distinguish needs from wants, and to act for the common good. Now, I'm saying this sarcastically because obviously those things are really true. And I do think that they're true. I just think that they think that that's actually what they're doing. And that's the part that I'm being sarcastic about. Perhaps most importantly, oikonomia reminds us that a farm is both a business and a household. Yeah, not necessarily. Among the people who own soybean farms, we've learned in the past few months is, the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. I assume we're living in the kind of time where we all know who the Treasury Secretary is, so I assume you know who he is. And so, yeah, they're not all living on the farm. It's not all a household. They want to make this idea that all of American farmland is owned by these small farmers who are just the salt of the earth. Yeah, not so salt, not so. Where did that expression come from? Salt of the earth. Is salt bad for the earth? Anyway, um, uh, so yeah, they love themselves. They want us to love them too, or at least to leave them alone, to just keep the land in the family and keep the money in the family. All right. Those are my two themes. I don't have any more theme articles, but I do have one more article that I wanted to bring your attention to. Animal rights group files crazy lawsuit to declare elephants people. This is from Law Enforcement Today, a publication that you might not be up on, or maybe you are. It starts off by this declare elephants people, and it is something that drives me crazy that even people who are friendly to these lawsuits, this is of course talking about the Non-Human Rights Project lawsuits, do tend to use the term people, whether an elephant is a people. And actually the word that is used in the lawsuit is person, which in common parlance means pretty much the same thing. In the law means something different, because corporations are persons in the law and ships can be persons in the law. It's a legal entity that can represent itself in certain ways. All right, so this is from Law Enforcement Today, as I mentioned, and it doesn't say who wrote it. I wouldn't leave that out. But by LET Guest, so somebody who's decided to stay secret. All right, that's fine, because I will keep them secret. Anti-hunting lawfare groups pretending to be quote-unquote conservation groups looking to gain support and donations are at it again. With a playbook that ignores conservation realities and highlights cherry-picked science, they are attempting to rewrite the law from the bench. That is actually, you can rewrite the law from the bench. I mean, is what courts do frequently. Harvesting support for their efforts with crafty online petitions, hunting license raffle takeovers. What is that all about? And slick media campaigns. All right, this is all focused on hunting. Like, so they're using this term conservation. That is not the term, it's not how most people think of the Non-Human Rights Project lawsuits. But, they're basically against them for most of the same reasons. All right. The Non-Human Rights Project is yet again resorting to legal shenanigans to label pachyderms as people in Pennsylvania. Legal shenanigans is their terms for bringing a lawsuit, I guess. Like, it's not like they can do it on their own. And so, they talk about the case in Pennsylvania, and the current one, and then the ones that have been lost, they've all been lost, with some with very sympathetic opinions, but not successful. The New York one, there was a Michigan one. Apparently, the Colorado one was particularly bad, was unanimous, and the judges there also noted that any sweeping change like this rests with legislators, not the judiciary. They like to say that a lot. Yeah, it's not up to us; it's up to somebody else. But ultimately, they're just against the whole idea. They mention Wayne Pacelli for some reason because they like to hate him. Doesn't have anything to do with the non-human rights projects, and keep talking about how animal rights groups like to pretend they're conservationists and call themselves conservationists. Nobody ever calls themselves a conservationist. That's not a term that we use. Um, Hunters and genuine conservationists, yes, including many zoo professionals, measure success in population stability, animal health, human-wildlife coexistence, and transparent use of public resources. Yeah, do they? Do they really? Or do they measure success in money? Because that's frequently a goal as well. And and the NHRP petition is part of a broader effort to bypass accountability. America does conservation best when wildlife management decisions are driven by evidence-based scientific data, which is exactly what, I mean, the Non-Human Rights Project does not characterize itself as a conservation group, but certainly they talk about evidence-based scientific data, respect expertise, they use experts extensively, and measure results, not just vibes. Well, the result would be letting an animal out of captivity who deserves to be. That seems like a result. But their real problem, of course, they don't really care about the elephant. I mean, they'd be fine with the elephant. It's it's the same problem we run up against in everything. We treat animals so horribly in so many different ways, and we are so dedicated to that for profit and culture that it's very hard, and this is what the law frequently has to do, to pick out a particular issue and argue that that should change because the reasons for it changing are the same as for all the other reasons. If we care about one animal, we care about them all. So, so yeah, it's the same problem. Everything we argue proves too much. And that's it for this week's Rising Anxieties. Please remember to subscribe wherever you listen. And don't forget to listen to our other podcasts, the long form interview and the Hen Report. And see you next week.